The transport vessel Meridian shuddered as it broke through Vexus Prime's atmospheric barrier, its hull groaning against alien winds that tasted of copper and ozone. Commander Elias Rourke pressed his palm against the viewport, watching the strange landscape unfold below crystalline formations that caught the light of twin suns, casting prismatic rainbows across burgundy soil that had never known human footsteps until recently. "First time on Vexus Prime, Commander?" Captain Torres asked from the pilot's seat, her weathered hands steady on unfamiliar controls. "First time this far out," Elias replied, adjusting his diplomatic uniform. The formal navy blue felt constraining, after months of casual shipboard attire. 3 years since they opened their borders to human contact. "Still can't believe we're here." The outpost materialized ahead a harmonious blend of flowing alien architecture and practical human additions. Organic curves met angular necessity, creating something entirely new. Elias had studied the cultural briefings, memorized protocol after protocol, but seeing it firsthand sent electricity through his nerves. The landing was smoother than expected. As the engines powered down, Elias gathered his diplomatic case and checked his appearance one final time. 42 years old, graying at the temples, carrying the weight of too many failed negotiations on distant worlds. This mission could change everything or end his career entirely. The airlock cycled open, revealing the outpost's central courtyard. The gravity felt lighter here, and the air carried scents he couldn't identify, something like jasmine mixed with metallic rain. A delegation waited, their forms striking against the alien architecture. She stepped forward first, the obvious leader of the group. Tall and graceful, with skin the color of polished emeralds that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Her hair fell in silver cascades to her shoulders, and her eyes held depths like captured starlight. She wore flowing robes of deep purple that moved like liquid around her lithe form. "Commander Rourke," she said, her voice carrying musical undertones that made his universal translator work overtime. "I am Kalen of the Fourth House, appointed as your cultural liaison during the negotiations." He extended his hand in the human greeting, then caught himself and performed the Catalian gesture of respect, pressing both palms together and inclining his head. Her expression showed the faintest approval. "The honor is mine, Kalen. Thank you for welcoming us to your world." "Your world as well now," she replied carefully. "The Council has granted temporary residency status to all diplomatic personnel. You will find your quarters prepared according to human requirements." As they walked through the outpost, Elias observed the seamless integration of two vastly different cultures. Human technology hummed alongside organic Catalian systems that seemed to grow rather than be built. Other aliens moved through the corridors, some nodding politely, others watching with barely concealed suspicion. "The integration appears successful," Elias commented. Callan's silver eyes met his briefly. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Many of my people still view humans as ... unpredictable. Your species' reputation for conflict precedes you." The words stung because they held truth. Humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of war before reaching for the stars. "I hope to change some minds during my stay. That remains to be seen." She paused at a junction, her expression softening slightly. "Your quarters are through here. The evening meal will be served in 2 hours. I suggest you rest. Tomorrow's sessions will be ... challenging." As she began to turn away, Elias found himself speaking. "Kalen, thank you for giving us this chance." She looked back, something unreadable flickering across her elegant features. "We shall see if it proves worthwhile, Commander. Welcome to Vexus Prime." Watching her retreating form, Elias felt the weight of his mission settling on his shoulders. 3 months to negotiate a lasting peace treaty between two species who barely understood each other. As the twin suns began their descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet unknown to Earth. He wondered if he was truly ready for what lay ahead. The alien stars were already beginning to emerge, cold and beautiful and utterly foreign. 3 days of negotiations had yielded nothing but carefully worded rejections and diplomatic deadlock. Elias sat in his quarters, reviewing transcripts of conversations that went nowhere, each exchange more frustrating than the last. The Catalian Council seemed determined to view every human proposal through the lens of suspicion, and he couldn't entirely blame them. Outside his window, Vexus Prime's unique double sunset painted the sky in impossible colors, deep purples, bleeding into gold, then fading to the rich burgundy that preceded the planet's brief twilight. He'd grown to love this daily spectacle, one of the few bright spots in an increasingly difficult assignment. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. "Enter," he called, expecting Captain Torres with another message from Earth Command. Instead, Kaylin stepped through the threshold, her emerald skin seeming to glow in the warm light of his quarters. She wore simpler robes tonight, deep blue. That complemented her coloring, and carried a datapad in her graceful hands. "Commander," she said formally, though he detected something softer in her tone. "I bring the Council's response to your latest proposal." He gestured to the seating area, noting how she chose the chair farthest from him, maintaining distance, even in private. "I assume it's another rejection? The Council requires more. Assurances regarding human intentions." She set down the pad without meeting his eyes. "They fear your species' tendency toward expansion will eventually threaten our autonomy." Elias rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion. "We're offering trade partnerships and cultural exchange, not conquest. What more can I say?" For the first time since his arrival, Callan's formal mask slipped slightly. "Perhaps the issue lies not in what you say, but in what your people have done elsewhere. The Catalians have long memories, Commander. We know of the conflicts on Proxima Station, the mining disputes in the Centauri system. Those were different circumstances, were they?" Her silver eyes flashed with something like frustration. "Every species claims peaceful intentions until resources become scarce or territory becomes valuable." The conversation fell into familiar patterns, circular arguments that led nowhere. But as they spoke, Elias found himself watching the play of expressions across her elegant features, noting the passion beneath her diplomatic reserve. She cared deeply about protecting her people, and he respected that dedication even as it complicated his mission. "You're tired," she observed suddenly, her voice gentler than before. 3 months of failed negotiations will do that," he admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm the right person for this job. Maybe someone younger, less jaded." "Jaded?" Kaylin tilted her head. A gesture he'd learned indicated curiosity among her people. "Worn down by too many worlds, too many species who couldn't find common ground. I've seen promising alliances crumble over misunderstandings, watched potential friendships die in committee rooms." He stared out at the emerging stars. "After a while, you start to wonder if meaningful connection between different species is even possible." Something in his tone seemed to affect her. The careful distance she maintained softened slightly. "You sound lonely double quotes." The word hit closer to home than he'd expected. "Occupational hazard. Diplomats spend their lives building bridges to places they can never truly belong." Kaylin was quiet for a long moment, her silver eyes studying his face with new attention. "On my world, we have a saying, 'The bridge exists not for its own sake, but to allow others to cross safely.'" Wise words. He met her gaze directly. "Do you think we'll find a way across, Kaylin?" "Honestly? Don't know." Her admission seemed to surprise her. "The Council fears what they don't understand, and humans remain largely a mystery to us. Your emotions, your passions, they're so much more intense than ours." "More intense? Or just different?" She considered this. Perhaps different. We Catalians prize harmony, balance. Your species seems driven by ... hunger. For knowledge, for growth, for connection. Is that necessarily bad? No, she said softly, but it's unpredictable, dangerous. As the twin moons rose outside his window, casting their combined light across the alien landscape, Elias felt something shift in the space between them. The formal barriers hadn't disappeared, but they'd become more porous somehow. Would you like some tea? He offered. I have some earth blends that might interest you. Kaelin hesitated, then nodded. That would be ... acceptable. As he prepared the tea, she moved to the window, her reflection ghost-like in the transparent. Aluminum. Your world's night sky, does it look like this? Nothing like this, he replied, joining her with 2 steaming cups. Earth has 1 moon, yellow stars. Beautiful, but in a completely different way. She accepted the tea, inhaling its aroma with obvious pleasure. I've studied your astronomical data, but seeing it must be different. Everything's different when you experience it firsthand. He watched her taste the tea, noting her expression of mild surprise. Good? Surprisingly complex, like your species. They stood in comfortable silence, sharing the view of Vexus Prime's nocturnal splendor. Somewhere in that quietude, the formal boundaries between diplomat and liaison began to blur, replaced by something more immediate and human, the simple pleasure of shared company in a beautiful moment. Kaelin, he said eventually, his voice barely above a whisper, thank you for this, for trying to understand. She turned to look at him, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. Understanding requires effort from both sides, Commander. Elias, he corrected gently. When we're alone like this, just call me Elias. A small smile graced her lips, the first genuine one he'd seen from her. Very well, Elias. The evening air on Vexus Prime carried a different quality after the twin moons reached their zenith cooler, with strange harmonics that seemed to resonate in the crystalline formations scattered throughout the outpost grounds. Elias had discovered these midnight walks helped clear his mind after particularly frustrating negotiation sessions, and tonight he needed the clarity more than ever. He hadn't expected to encounter Kaelin in the meditation gardens, her silhouette, ethereal among the bioluminescent flora that bloomed only in darkness. She knelt beside a small reflecting pool, her silver hair catching the moonglow like captured starlight. I'm sorry, he said softly, preparing to retreat. I didn't realize anyone was here. Stay, she said without turning. The gardens are meant to be shared. He approached carefully, settling onto a stone bench nearby. The bioluminescent plants pulsed gently around them, creating an almost musical rhythm of light. Rough day in the council chambers? They grow more resistant to compromise with each session. Her voice carried a weariness he hadn't heard before. Some members speak of ending the negotiations entirely. The words hit him like a physical blow. That would be unfortunate for both our species, would it? She finally looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the garden's soft glow. Perhaps some barriers exist for good reasons, Elias. The use of his first name sent warmth through his chest. Over the past week, their formal interactions had gradually shifted towards something approaching friendship, though both maintained careful professional boundaries. Do you believe that? He asked. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers trailing in the reflecting pool. The water responded to her touch with ripples of phosphorescent light. I don't know what I believe anymore. 3 months ago, I thought. I understood the universe's natural order. Now, Now I find myself questioning assumptions I've held since childhood. She stood gracefully, moving to sit beside him on the bench. A proximity sent his pulse racing in ways that had nothing to do with diplomacy. Your people are complicated. Complicated how? You carry such intensity of feeling. Pain, joy, longing, all of it burns so brightly in you. Her eyes met his directly. It's simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. Without thinking, he reached out to touch her hand. She didn't pull away, though he felt the slight tremor that ran through her fingers. Kaelin, I need to tell you something. Yes? The words came harder than any diplomatic speech he'd ever given. These past weeks, getting to know you, it's meant more to me than just professional collaboration. I know that complicates things, but I can't pretend otherwise. Her breath caught almost imperceptibly. Elias ... I'm not asking for anything inappropriate, he continued quickly. I just needed you to know that you've become important to me. As a person, not just as a liaison. She was quiet so long he began to fear he'd shattered their fragile friendship. Then, unexpectedly, her fingers tightened around his. On my world, she said carefully, we don't form personal attachments easily. Catalians mate for life, but only after long courtships spanning years. What you describe, this immediate connection, it's foreign to our way of thinking. I understand if that makes you uncomfortable. You misunderstand, she interrupted gently. I didn't say it was unwelcome, only foreign. Hope flared in his chest. Meaning? Meaning I find myself drawn to you in ways that defy my cultural conditioning. Her admission came barely above a whisper. When I'm with you, I feel ... awakened, as if I'd been living only half a life before. The garden's bioluminescent glow seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Kelen ... This is dangerous for both of us, she continued. If the council suspected personal involvement between us, they'd end negotiations immediately. And your own superiors would probably court-martial me, he finished with a rueful smile. Diplomatic fraternization is strictly forbidden. Then we shouldn't. No, he agreed. We shouldn't, but neither of them moved apart. Instead, Kellen's free hand rose to trace the line of his jaw with feather-light fingers. Her touch sent electricity through every nerve. Your skin is so warm, she murmured wonderingly. Catalian body temperature runs several degrees cooler than human normal. Is that ... pleasant for you? Very pleasant. Her silver eyes had darkened to pewter in the garden's shifting light. Perhaps that's why I find myself wanting to be near you. You radiate life in a way my people don't. Unable to resist any longer, he cupped her face in his palms, marveling at the silken texture of her emerald skin. Kaelin, if we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. I know. Her hands covered his, holding them against her cheeks. But perhaps some barriers are meant to be crossed. When their lips met, it was with a gentleness that surprised them both. Her mouth was cooler than human normal, but warmed quickly under his touch. The kiss deepened gradually, years of diplomatic restraint dissolving in the space of heartbeats. They broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed together in the moonlight. This changes everything, she whispered. Yes, he agreed, his thumb stroking across her cheekbone. It does. The implications crashed over them simultaneously, the professional risk, the cultural barriers, the political complications. But in that moment, surrounded by alien starlight and bioluminescent flowers, none of it seemed to matter as much as the connection sparking between them. One night, Kaelin said suddenly, her voice stronger than before. Give me one night to show you my world through Catalian eyes. No politics, no negotiations, just ... us. The offer hung in the air between them, loaded with promise and danger in equal measure. Yes, he said without hesitation. A night with you. Kaelin led him through passages he'd never seen before, deeper into the organic heart of the Catalian section. The walls here seemed alive, pulsing with gentle bioluminescence that responded to their presence with waves of soft color. The air itself felt different, cleaner somehow, filled with the subtle harmonics that her people used instead of artificial lighting. "This is the cultural archive," she explained softly, her hand warm in his as they walked. "Humans aren't typically permitted here, but tonight I want to share something sacred with you." The chamber they entered took his breath away. Vast and cathedral-like, its walls curved upward into darkness, while thousands of crystalline formations hung from organic supports, each one glowing with stored memories and experiences. The Catalian method of preserving history wasn't through books or data files, but through sensory crystals that could convey not just information, but the emotions and experiences of those who'd created them. "My ancestors' memories live here," Kaelin said, her voice reverent. "Their joys, their sorrows, their dreams for the future. This is what we're truly fighting to protect, not just our territory or resources, but our essence as a people." Elias understood then why the negotiations had been so difficult. They weren't just discussing trade agreements. They were asking the Catalians to trust their most precious heritage to a species they barely knew. "It's beautiful," he said honestly, "and I understand now why the Council is so cautious. If someone offered to share this with humanity, I'd be suspicious too." Kaelin squeezed his hand. "That's what makes you different from other diplomats I've met. You see beyond the surface to what really matters." She guided him to a smaller alcove where cushions were arranged around a softly glowing pool. The setup was intimate, clearly designed for private contemplation, or, as he was beginning to realize, courtship. "Sit with me," she said, settling gracefully onto the cushions. "Let me show you how Catalians truly connect." As he joined her, she reached for one of the smaller crystals, not an ancestral memory, but something more personal. When she touched it, the air filled with gentle music and the scent of flowers he couldn't identify. "This holds my childhood," she explained. "The day I first saw the twin moons rise, the feeling of my mother's hand in mine, the taste of celebration cakes during Harvest Festival." Her silver eyes met his. "Among my people, sharing personal crystals is the deepest form of intimacy." The trust implicit in her gesture overwhelmed him. "Kaelin, I don't have anything like this to share with you." "You have something better," she said, moving closer until their knees touched. "You have yourself, here and now. Your warmth, your presence, your honest reactions to my world." When she leaned forward to kiss him again, it was with a passion that surprised them both. Her earlier restraint had dissolved completely, replaced by an urgency that matched his own. Their mouths moved together with increasing hunger, hands exploring unfamiliar territory with reverent curiosity. "Your skin," she murmured against his neck. "It's like touching sunlight." Her lips found the pulse point at his throat, and he gasped at the sensation. Catalian physiology was similar enough to human that every touch felt familiar yet exotic. When her teeth grazed his collarbone, he couldn't suppress a groan of pleasure. "Is this acceptable?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "I don't know human preferences." "God, yes," he breathed, his hands tangling in her silver hair. "Everything you're doing is perfect." Emboldened, she began exploring more freely, her mouth trailing down his chest as her fingers worked at the fastenings of his diplomatic uniform. When the garment fell away, she paused to study his form with artistic appreciation. "So different from Catalian males," she observed, her fingertips tracing patterns across his chest. "More angular, more defined, beautiful in its own way." Her touch was driving him to distraction, but he forced himself to focus on her needs as, "Well, may I?" he asked, indicating her flowing robes. She nodded, helping him navigate the unfamiliar fastenings. As the fabric pooled around her waist, he caught his breath. Her form was elegant and feminine, her emerald skin seamless and luminous in the crystal light. Small, intricate patterns of slightly darker green traced delicate whorls across her. Shoulders and arms, natural markings that enhanced her beauty rather than detracting from it. "You're extraordinary," he whispered, his hands reverent as they explored the alien geography of her body. Their lovemaking began slowly, a careful exploration of similarities and differences. Where humans were urgent and passionate, Catalians were graceful and thorough. Where he burned hot and bright, she flowed like cool water, tempering his fire without extinguishing it. But as their connection deepened, the cultural differences mattered less. She matched his passion with her own, their bodies finding a rhythm that transcended species. When she arched beneath him, crying out in a language that needed no translation, he felt something fundamental shift between them. Afterward, they lay, entwined on the soft cushions, her head on his chest as his fingers combed through her silver hair. The archive's crystalline lights pulsed gently around them, as if responding to their emotional state. "This was not supposed to happen," she said quietly, her breath warm against his skin. "Do you regret it?" "No." Her answer came without hesitation. "But it makes everything more complicated. My duty to the Council, your mission objectives. Maybe some things are more important than duty," he suggested, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. She lifted herself to look at him, her silver eyes serious. "In 3 weeks, either we'll have a treaty or you'll return to Earth. Either way, whatever this is between us, can't continue beyond that." The thought of leaving her sent a sharp pang through his chest. Unless ... unless what? Unless we find a third option. Something that doesn't require either of us to abandon our responsibilities. Hope flickered in her expression before being tempered by realism. The Council would never accept a human as permanent liaison. And your people wouldn't let you stay even if they did. Probably not, he agreed. But 3 weeks is a long time. Maybe we can find a way to make this work. She smiled sadly. "You're an optimist, Elias Rourke." "Occupational necessity," he replied, pulling her close for another kiss. "Diplomats who don't believe in impossible solutions don't accomplish much." As they held each other in the soft glow of ancestral memories, both knew they were balanced on a knife's edge between love and duty, between personal happiness and the greater good of their respective species. But for now, in this sacred space, beneath alien stars, they chose to believe that love might find a way. The morning brought harsh reality crashing back. Elias woke alone in his quarters, the scent of alien flowers still clinging to his skin, the memory of Kellen's touch burning bright in his mind. A message waited on his communicator, an urgent summons from Captain Torres. "Earth Command's getting impatient," Torres said without preamble when he arrived at the communications center. 3 months with minimal progress. They're considering recalling the mission. The words hit him like a physical blow. "Captain, I need more time. I'm close to a breakthrough with the Catalian Council. Are you?" Her weathered face showed skepticism. "Because the reports I'm sending home don't reflect much progress. And there are rumors circulating among the crew." Ice formed in his stomach. "What kind of rumors?" "The kind that end diplomatic careers," she said bluntly. "Some of the junior officers have observed you spending considerable time with the Catalian liaison, alone, after hours." Damn. He'd thought they'd been discreet, but apparently not discreet enough. "Captain, I don't want to hear it, Commander. Just tell me these rumors are unfounded, and I'll do my best to contain them." He wanted to lie, to protect both his mission and Kellen's reputation, but the words wouldn't come. Torres read his silence accurately. "Jesus Christ, Elias, tell me you haven't compromised this entire mission for a romantic entanglement. It's not that simple. It never is." She turned away, her disappointment palpable. "I have to report this to Earth Command. You know that." "Give me 1 week," he pleaded. 7 days to salvage something from these negotiations. If I can't produce results by then, I'll submit my resignation myself. Torres studied his face for a long moment. 1 week. But Elias, if this goes sideways, it won't just be your career on the line. Every human on this outpost becomes a political liability. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders like a lead cloak. As he left the communications center, his mind raced through possibilities, contingencies, desperate gambits that might save both the mission and protect Kaelin from the political fallout. He found her in the council chambers, preparing for another day of negotiations. One look at his face told her everything had changed. "They know," she said quietly. "Not everything. Not yet, but we're out of time." He glanced around the empty chamber, ensuring they wouldn't be overheard. "Kaelin, I have 1 week to produce a breakthrough, or Earth Command recalls the mission." Her composure cracked slightly. "And if that happens, you'll be safe. Any scandal will follow me back to Earth, but our people will lose this chance at alliance, maybe permanently." She was quiet for several heartbeats, her silver eyes distant with thought. "There might be another way." "What do you mean?" "Last night, you spoke of finding a third option. What if the solution isn't a traditional treaty at all?" Before he could ask what she meant, the council members began filing into the chamber. But something was different today. Instead of their usual formal robes, several wore ceremonial attire he'd never seen before. Elder Thane, the council's most conservative member, approached them directly. "Commander Rourke," the elderly Catalian said, his voice carrying unusual gravity, "we understand there have been developments in your relationship with liaison Kaelin." Elias felt the blood drain from his face. If the council knew about their personal involvement, any hope of successful negotiations was finished. "Elder Thane, I can explain." "Explanation is unnecessary," Thane interrupted. "What matters is what this development represents." Confused, Elias looked to Kaelin for clarification, but her expression was unreadable. Thane continued, "In Catalian culture, when two individuals from different houses form a romantic bond, it signifies more than personal attraction. It represents the possibility of deeper alliance between their respective communities." The implications hit Elias like lightning. "You're suggesting a bonding ceremony," Kaelin said quietly. "Not just between us personally, but as representatives of our species. A symbolic joining that could serve as the foundation for formal alliance. But that would require," Elias began. "It would require one of you to permanently join the other's community," Elder Thane finished. "A sacrifice that would demonstrate the depth of commitment both species are willing to make for peace." The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the proposal sank in. This wasn't just about diplomatic treaties anymore. It was about fundamental life choices that would affect not just Elias and Kaelin, but the future relationship between humans and Catalians. "I need to consult with my superiors," Elias said finally. "Of course," Thane replied, "but understand that this offer has limited duration. The council will not keep it open indefinitely." As the formal session began, Elias found it impossible to concentrate on trade agreements and territorial disputes. His mind kept returning to the impossible choice laid before them. Personal happiness at the cost of everything they'd both worked for, or duty that would separate them forever. During a recess, Kaelin approached him privately. "You don't have to answer now," she said softly. "But Elias, if you were to stay, if you were to become Catalian by adoption, it wouldn't be exile. It would be homecoming. And if you came with me to Earth," she smiled sadly, "I would be forever alien there, wouldn't I? Never truly belonging." Always observed and studied. The truth of her words settled between them. Either choice would require tremendous sacrifice from one of them. "There's a third option," he said suddenly. "What?" "We become something new. Not fully human, not fully Catalian, but a bridge between worlds. We establish a permanent liaison, office half human, half Catalian staff, operating from both Earth and Vexus Prime, a living symbol of cooperation. Hope flickered in her silver eyes. The Council might accept such an arrangement. And your Earth? Command? They'll hate it at first. But if it produces results, real, lasting peace between our species, they'll learn to love it. As they stood together in the council chambers, surrounded by the weight of history and the hope of the future, Elias realized they were no longer just negotiating a treaty. They were creating an entirely new model for interspecies cooperation one, built not on formal agreements, but on the most fundamental connection of all, love. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in diplomatic history. Instead of two sides trying to gain advantage, they became collaborative architects of a shared future. When the final agreements were signed 3 days later, they established not just trade partnerships and cultural exchanges, but a new institution, the Human Catalian Liaison Corps, with Elias and Kalen as its first co-directors. 6 months later, as they stood together beneath the twin moons of Vexus Prime, watching human and Catalian children play together in the outpost gardens, Kalen leaned against his shoulder. "No regrets?" she asked softly. Elias wrapped his arms around her. Feeling the warm weight of the bonding bands, they both wore symbols of their commitment to each other and to the bridge they'd built between worlds. "None at all," he said, pressing a kiss to her silver hair. Sometimes the best diplomacy happens not in conference rooms, but in quiet moments when two people choose to trust each other completely. Above them, the alien stars shone with familiar warmth, no longer foreign but home. END